certainly because of economic conditions and because of closed segregation patterns, it's very difficult to tell people to leave homes that have been handed down from generation to generation. But I think even if those children are not socializing together, they're classed together, and that's important to their future. And let me give you a good example. This evening I was in traffic court, and the Judge Delaney referred, here's Clara Luper. And white students that I hadn't seen in 10, 12, 15 years ran up and hugged me and said, Miss Luper, I'm so happy to see you. Well, that could not have happened before that Brown decision. Those same white children would have been standing back, afraid to even speak to me. Well, I think it still goes back to the home and the Christian people and how they raise their children, and I've raised my children to love all people. Thank you for listening to me.
Thank you, ma'am. Appreciate your call. 840-1000. Let us know the line number. Civil rights leader Clara Luper on the line. We're talking about federal judge Luther Bohannon. Late this afternoon in that NAACP lawsuit against the Oklahoma City School District, ruling in favor of the school district and ruling in favor of returning to the neighborhood school concept in Oklahoma City for grades K through 4. NAACP says it will appeal, claiming that those schools will be, for the most part, resegregated here in Oklahoma City. One point before we take the next call, Clara, you said some black parents testified before the judge today in favor of the school plan. And the Urban League, I believe, went on record before the lawsuit as supporting it. And I don't know how many, but a number of black parents apparently support returning to the neighborhood school concept. Now that tells me that returning to the neighborhood school concept so their kids can walk down the street to the nearest school is more important to them than their child sitting in a racially integrated classroom.
Okay, now, let's get the record straight. I didn't say some parents. I said one parent, and that was Dr. Tommy White, whose children have never gone to a public school, was one of the ones that testified in favor of the plan, and also Dr. Henderson, a professor at Oklahoma University, whose children have always been in integrated schools.
Okay.
Now, you're saying to me that some of the blacks wanted to do it. Let me quote directly to you from Harriet Tubman's mother and father. They stated that they did not want to run away and get their freedom because they had kind of gotten used to being slaves. There are a lot of blacks that have gotten used to staying in a vacuum, and they want to stay there. So I'm not condemning them. In fact, that's their belief in America. But I am saying, and I'm only speaking as an NAACPer tonight, and I'm only speaking on behalf of my house. We believe in segregation from kindergarten, from daycare on up. This is our belief, because we believe that it's good for America. This is what America is all about.
840-1000 is my talk line number. Bob Durgan with Clara Luper this hour. Howdy.
Hi, Bob. How are you?
Fine, sir.
It probably takes an issue like this for me to even call in. And first of all...
you a first-timer?
No, I've called in 2 or 3 times, but about once a year.
Right. Well, you can call in more than that if you want to.
This is one of those eviscerating subjects. I certainly respect Mrs. Luper's opinion, although I think she is dead wrong. I think Judge Bohannon, as many Americans, have finally reached the point in belief that it is far more important and less damaging to the society on a whole to know that one's children are going to be going to a very local school, at least K through 4th grade. I think that was the predominant logic that he used and that he felt. I think the overall destruction of the school systems because of this plan has been obvious. The PTAs are literally non-existent today. There's no way. I live, for instance, on the southeast part of town, and Mrs. Luper probably realizes the area in which I live is 50-50. It's 50% black and basically 50% white. Yet my children have been bussed all over this city. We, because of that, have not taken an active part as much as we would like to in their education because they're miles away from here. That damage, that destruction, is greater than, I believe, any de facto segregation that exists in the society. I believe from the 4th, perhaps 5th grade deliberate on, then we can look to change societal opinions, perhaps through integrated schools. But I don't believe that my 5, 6, 7, 8, 9-year-old child should be the tool by which we tend or attempt to, as we may never succeed, integrate the society. And I think Judge Bohannon now feels that way, as I think most Americans do. I will be the first to applaud the tremendous strides made through integration, but I don't believe it's necessary from the very earliest grades. Those are the times when most parents are most excited about educating their children, want to take an active part in education, and are forced not to do that today because of busing all over. Nothing worse, I hate worse, to see my little girl have to get on a bus and go all the way across town to hopefully, and that's a big hope, integrate the society. I believe with the previous caller that we must work to have open neighborhoods. We are always going to have segregated neighborhoods. There's always going to people be with enough money to move where they want to move and exclude just through economic means, as Mrs. Luper has said, blacks or Chicanos or some other minority getting in there. Just as she has also said there are certain blacks who, for whatever reasons, will want to stay basically in a void. That we can't change. But the overall mass of the public is better served, I believe, by allowing our children, to particularly K through 4, maybe even 5th grade, to go to local schools where we can watch them better, control the school better, have some input into their education.
Clara?
It really seems interesting to me because the person that's talking live on the southeast side of Oklahoma City.
Yes.
A few years ago, we were trying to integrate the housing area in that area. When we marched out to Councilman Smith's house, we heard the same conversation that he's putting forth tonight. That blacks, why you want to be out here? That's too much trouble. But what I'm proud of the fact that my daughter can ride a bus. During the dark days of segregation, we had to walk across town. I am proud.
That's an that is an accomplishment for your family.
What about
The
this?
majority of an overwhelming majority of families putting one child at 7 or 8 years old on a bus to be educated is not something that we think is an accomplishment. It is, in fact, a negative aspect of their education. For a minority of blacks, and I think it's a minority, I have spoken to many, many black families who don't like busing as a way of integrating society. They abhor it as much as we do. I think they saw it as a necessary evil. I still accept it as a necessary evil, but not for those very impressionable first 5, 6 years that I want to be closer to the school where my children are being educated.
Well, let me ask you a question. Do you work in that area?
Yes, ma'am, I do.
Well, you're fortunate because most people in the neighborhoods, they work at Tinkerfield, FAA, or somewhere else.
I understand.
We don't go to church in our neighborhoods.
Well, you know, the federal government now has opened up as much as they can employment opportunities for all races. Supposedly Oklahoma has an open housing law. You know and I know that that is basic open housing if you have the open pocketbook. But nonetheless, we are making tremendous strides there, and that's truly where integration will come.
Caller, let me say one thing. I can't back this up with any statistics or anything, but I know because I know that psychologists and psychiatrists or sociologists maybe support the idea of integrating the races during the tender young years, because that's when the impressionable young formulate all of their character and values and prejudices. And so if we are to have, and they say, and I'm paraphrasing now, this philosophy that I believe, and I'm asking you if you do, to paraphrase what they say, they claim that if we're going to have a society which truly goes beyond the racial barrier or the color barrier or these prejudicial barriers that bring about disgusting forms of discrimination and have for hundreds of years, okay, if we're going to get beyond that, we've got to start from the cradle. And that if we are to have any kind of necessary segregation in the schools, it ought to be in the later years, when the students have already accepted other human beings who are different, either different in color, different in various forms. But to segregate them from day one, by the time they reach 4th grade, there may be now many students, black and white, who will never be in any kind of a situation with members of the opposite race. And if their parents are racists to boot, or prejudiced to boot, black or white, that will double the problem that child is going to have going through the rest of his or her life, accepting someone who is a different color. Now, everything you said, and you said it most eloquently, I kind of found myself agreeing with. And then I'd go back and I'd say, yeah, but one of the results is going to be children, black and white, who are socialized without having to find love and tolerance for people who are different than them. And the reason they're not going to have to find that love and tolerance is because they're not going to have the opportunity.
Well,
now, how do we give them the opportunity?
I disagree with you, but then and here's why, and Mrs. Luper pointed it out, I think, very well. This is now, by and large, an extremely integrated society.
No, I didn't point that out.
Well, let me finish for a moment. We have now, I think we're well on the road to at least implementing, as far as government can, those roads necessary to bring us to full integration. We will always have segregated areas, however, and I think you appreciate that. From the moment your child is born, today, as Mrs. Luper's pointed out, my children, you have to, by necessity, if you have a population of 10% blacks in the community, let's say Oklahoma City, I think it's higher than that. Today, because of the federal law and state and city law, you are going to mix with them. In fact, daycare centers are going to be mixed with them. We're going to mix with them, and that sounds as if it's a...
mix with each other.
Yeah, it sounds like a prejudicial statement already, them and us. But as a matter of fact, we do mix. We go to the same baseball games, the same theaters, the same restaurants now. Thank you, Mrs. Luper, for that.
Well, passing each other in the night, you know, I mean, you may be right, caller. I may be all wet, but I do know passing in the night doesn't accomplish anything. Passing like two ships in the night
Well, we're
accomplishes
not really
nothing.
passing. And, I mean, my goodness, for instance, how many children today are in daycare centers that are integrated?
Well, that's a good point now. I never thought of that.
Because so many mothers work. The workplace is becoming totally integrated. Certainly Tinkerfield, the largest employer in Oklahoma, is in fact a very, very integrated employer.
Well, okay. I want to take another call.
Okay.
Yeah, Clara.
Let me say this. I've heard all of this talk the last few days about parental participation in PTAs. Fortunately, I taught in the Oklahoma City school system when we had neighborhood schools. Do you know who attended the PTA meetings? Mothers and teachers.
What do you mean? What's your point?
My point is that if we're saying that one of the arguments in the court was that if we accepted this reassignment plan, we would have better parental participation, especially in the PTAs. And I am saying before we went into the finger plan, we didn't have that parental participation. Your PTAs consisted of meetings with mothers, maybe 2 or 3 fathers, and teachers. A minute day I went to a PTA meeting and nobody was there but the president of the PTA and the teachers.
I can't argue with that.
Caller, you raised excellent points. I thank you.
Okay, thank you.
You have a good night.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. KTOK, you're on the air with Clara Luper. We're discussing Federal Judge Luther Bohannon's ruling late this afternoon in the NAACP lawsuits against the Oklahoma City School District. And the judge ruled in favor of the school district and against the NAACP in saying Oklahoma City schools can return to the neighborhood school concept for grades K through 4. And Clara, again, before we take the next caller, I find it very interesting that the judge, among the many things he said after his ruling, said that he does not believe that returning to the neighborhood school concept would resegregate many or all of those elementary schools. I find that very interesting. He knows something I don't, obviously, since I've had school board people tell me that they believe that many or most of those schools would be, for the most part, resegregated. So I don't know. I can't.
They also testified to that in court.
All right, yeah, but the judge doesn't believe it. The judge says they won't be resegregated. So I guess the only way...
Well, there might be one white student in a school over here.
But that's not segregation. Okay, then you get down to trying to define what is segregation.
What it is.
Yeah, I know. It goes on forever. Hi, caller, you're on the air with Clara Luper.
Yes, I heard a program that you had some time ago with someone from either the school board or from the schools and Mrs. Luper, and one of the things that I was interested
interested in was figures that she gave. She was backed into a corner and made to say yes or no when yes or no didn't apply. But
Well, you're referring to the president of the school board, I believe, Susan Hermes.
well, before that, she commented on the mix that's in the schools that would be. See, now they're not reopening all of the schools that used to be in existence. So that makes a difference in the population around where the schools are going to be open. She mentioned that there was one school that would be predominantly black. There was one school that would be predominantly white. Well, you take two schools out of all of those that we're going to have, and I don't think that makes it the crucial issue. But I also heard over KTOK the programs where the mothers, and a number of, most of these were black mothers, who were pleading to have their first and second graders and any younger children and third graders nearer home. They had no way to get to them if they were sick and were called to come and get the child. But I think the big thing that probably influenced the judge is the fact that the housing is not now the way it was in 1970. What was it, 71 or 2? When they have changed to have the
I believe it was
segregated schools.
72, ma'am.
See, and I know now almost anywhere you go, if you're renting, now I don't know about purchased homes because there probably are areas that are exclusively one or the other, but if you rent, you're as likely to have more black neighbors than white neighbors.
Well, I don't buy that. Yeah, and
Well, I've rented around in several different areas, and it doesn't bother me.
there are pockets, caller. I believe in what you say to a point, except that I'm not going to fall into the trap, and it's not by design, keep that in mind, but I'm not going to fall into the trap of saying that, or tacitly admitting that we have, by and large, a segregated community here in the metro area, because we don't.
Well, there are pockets, but just like this man.
Yes, very small pockets, because I can take you to 98% of the metro area, and it's either all black or all white.
I don't believe it, not 98%.
Well, okay, I think
guessing it's too big.
I'm setting my own trap here.
I think it's the other way. I think it's probably 98% desegregated.
No way. No
I
way.
think it's larger than that. But
There's too many streets that are lily white or all black, and
I would like to invite her to go with me now. Allow her to ride in my 73 Nova, and I want her to show me that. And I'll take her out to dinner. Well, she could come over to my neighborhood where I've lived 7 or 8 years, 3, 4 different neighborhoods. And these are nice neighborhoods, but they are rental. They're not owned homes. Now, see, I know there is a difference in owned, but nearly every street I go down, there are about as many black homes as there are white. But there's one other point, Bob, that I think has been overlooked, and it bothers me a little bit.
Yes, ma'am.
When we talk about desegregation, I'm concerned about the Spanish-speaking children. If it is better for a child to be in a mixed population, then it's against the Spanish-speaking child to go where there are mostly Spanish-speaking children. And as far as I know, they have never made it a matter of concern to see that Spanish-speaking children are proportionately divided.
Well, the reason they haven't, I think, is because there hasn't been that many.
Oh, there are a lot of Spanish-speaking children that are segregated. That is, they live in areas together, and they go to that particular school. Now, I know one school.
Well, gosh, I don't know. I mean, how many are many? I mean, how many do we have?
Well, if you have, she was speaking of one white child being in a black school and not being desegregated. If you had one white child in a
She was saying that Clara was being facetious when she.
No, I'm not talking about Clara being facetious. She was being all right. I'm just saying that we are overlooking the other nationalities that are here. If you're going to have a mixture, then they should be considered too.
Well, you may be right.
I have worked in one Spanish-speaking area where nearly all of the children, I will say 65% of the children were Spanish-speaking, and some of their parents didn't even speak English.
All right, let me take another call, and I thank you for yours. Now, Clara?
You didn't tell her that in Oklahoma, according to the Constitution, anybody that's not black is white.
What?
The Constitution of Oklahoma states that anybody that's not black is white. So then the Spanish, the Indians, and all are considered as whites. Under the law.
Are you kidding me?
I'm not kidding you. Read your state constitution.
I didn't know that.
And today they testified there were 11 schools that would be predominantly black.
The state constitution says anybody who is not black will be
It
considered
defines black in the Constitution.
will be considered white.
Yes.
Well, that's interesting. Look, I've got news coming up very shortly, Clara, but I consider this important, okay? I consider this matter extremely important. Regardless of how the judge rules, there's many, many feelings within hundreds of thousands of people across the Oklahoma City metro area when it comes to the sensitive issue of race, whether it be segregation or integration of the schools or of the neighborhoods or whatever. So what I'm saying is I want you to come back with me next hour. Can you do that?
Okay, Bob, anything for you.
I love you. Now, we've got some time left before the news at 9 o'clock. So we're going to take a few more calls, okay?
Okay.
Then at 9 o'clock, we'll break for 10 minutes. You can go vacuum your rugs or do whatever you have to do, and I'll call you back at 9:10. All right?
Okay.
All right. And those of you on hold, if you stay on hold through the news, you'll be among the first to talk with Clara next hour at 840-1000. But we're going to take a few more calls right now. Hi, KTOK.
Yeah, good evening.
Yes, Ken. Go ahead.
Well,
Yes.
you know, I've never understood why people can't realize that if we're going to have integration, we're going to have to find a common balance between the quality of life and the quality of education. That both entities, white and black, recognize that we are individuals with personal values and we have strong heritage. But if we are going to be Americans, we're going to have to realize that we're going to have to respect the rights of all people concerned. I don't think we can legislate by law the spirit that is required to find the right balance in this racial discrimination that's plagued this nation far too long. I think, though, however, you're a school teacher, and I'm a grandparent. We both agree that we want a quality education and an opportunity for the youth of this country. We can't put asunder or correct the problems that have happened in the past. Whoever is at fault. What we must look to is a future where the people will unite and we get the most productivity out of our educational system for all Americans, black, white, or what have you. And you are quite correct in the Constitution of the state of Oklahoma. I would suggest strongly that someone move to get that corrected. That can be repealed, and it should be repealed. It's an abomination to all people.
Well, thank you so very kindly. We can't legislate certain things.
We can change legislation. That's why we hire these. That's why we put these people out there. We can change anything we want to change. But basically what we must change is our attitudes to one another.
And you're exactly right. That starts in the first grade. Now, nobody's going to separate me from my children, whether they're black or white or what have you.
Well, you know, I make a living from behind I supposedly had to get behind the wheel of a car to get from point A to point B. And this is not productive hours. Neither is it for the children in schools, be them black, white, or what have you. These children we should recognize that all people, regardless of their color, have a right to a quality education.
Ken, thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good night. I don't disagree with anything he said.
I don't either.
All right, now, Clara, I'll call you back in 15 minutes.
Thank you, Bob.
All right, dear. Bye-bye. This is KTOK in Oklahoma City. My name is Bob Durgan. My talk line number is 840-1000. Oklahoma City Civil Rights Leader Clara Luper will be back in the 9 to 10 o'clock hour and take more calls. Those of you on hold, put your phones down. Go about your business.
I've had a group of blacks to call me, and they say that they were having a meeting here in Oklahoma City, and they were waiting to see how this decision came out, and they want to invite Farrakhan here.
They want to invite what?
Farrakhan, the leader of the Muslims, that's been crying out for segregation. You don't remember Farrakhan?
No. Fill me in now.
Oh, he's the one that, he's the leader of the Muslims, the nation of Muslims.
Okay, and he preaches...
Segregation and building within your own community. I have a group of blacks that have called here, and they say that if the whites in Oklahoma City want segregation, that we should give them segregation, which means that if our kids go to school in our neighborhoods, we should shop in our neighborhoods, and that the white Oklahomans do not want NACP's philosophy, and we should let somebody else take over. That's a different angle to it. They say if they want neighborhood schools with the segregated schools,
Now, do you support that, Clara?
Do I support that?
Yeah.
Do I support that philosophy?
Yeah, that boycott. It's a
Not a
boycott.
boycott. They just say buy in black neighborhoods. If you're going to go neighborhood one way, go all the way.
Well, no,
That's what they're saying.
I know.
Now, I'm not saying I am.
I know it, Clara.
This way. I
Except
believe in the system.
that I know you do, dear. Except that the black Muslim leader, in essence, is suggesting a black boycott of white stores. Right?
No, not a black boycott of white stores. And they're saying that if we are going to go to school in our neighborhoods, then we should shop in our neighborhood.
Well,
Because it's the same philosophy. Poor little kids going all across town. Poor little adults, old adults. Well, that's a different thing, and I didn't want to get off on that, but I just wanted
Well,
to
I consider that very...
we have a different school of thought.
Yeah, I consider that very important. I'm glad you told me that,
Okay.
because the last thing the community needs, really, and I feel this way, the last thing the community needs is the same kinds of divisive issues that separated whites and blacks when the finger plan was introduced in 1972. We don't need that all over again, and now you've just told me that within the last few minutes a group of black people have called you to say and suggest that perhaps they should go and ask the black Muslim leader into Oklahoma City to...
Not in Oklahoma City. They're talking about the one out of Chicago, Farrakhan.
Yeah.
He's been drawing such crowds of blacks all over this country.
Yeah, and they want to invite him here.
Right, because he's talking the same thing that they say.
I understand.
Judge Bohannon and other white people are talking.
Yeah.
Now, I believe in the white people in Oklahoma. That's why tonight I believe hundreds of white people are going to take out NACP and support our cause.
Let's go. You ready to go back to the phones?
Yes.
All right, let's do it. Hi, KTOK, you're on the air with Clara Luper.
Well, I met Miss Luper a number of years ago, and I'd like to say she is a bad representative to the NACP, or whatever they call it.
NAACP, sir.
And she's never paid her bills, the reason she's driving a 73 Nova. I tell you what, you ought to try American Motors. You've never paid for one car. You've never paid for anything you've ever done.
Caller, that's kind of awfully personal. I mean, you don't know that.
I do know it.
Well, even if you do know it, I think it's highly...
Now, what he doesn't know is that I have never voted
Wait a
for
minute.
American.
No, wait a minute.
Oh,
Please.
I'm not going to answer that. That's irrelevant.
I don't expect you to. Caller, I'm not going to let you be that offensive on this radio station. Do you have anything concerning the plan to say?
Well, I think, tell her to bring her Muslim friends in. I think she's communistic. She's been a parasite on the neighborhood all her life.
Now we're back to name-calling again. You obviously support the judge's ruling, right?
Well, I support it. I've got a lot of black friends, but she's not one of them. She's never paid one bill in her whole
All right, thank you very much. I told you we weren't going to allow that kind of offensiveness. Hi, KTOK, you're on...
That's quite interesting.
Yeah, I know. Hi, you're on the air with Clara Luper.
Okay, Bob. I support Judge Bohannon, and I'm privileged to talk to you on your show tonight. I like you and Jan, and I haven't talked to you since the home show out there.
Oh, bless your heart. Hi, how are you again?
I'm fine, and Sarah Luper knows me. I'm in her same precinct she's in, but I'm not going to identify myself on the phone. But I had the first little black person in the grade schools in Oklahoma City, and he was a little doll, and he was so well, I don't know what to say, but anyway, his mother became one of my staunchest supporters, and I love those little people, but I think they do need to stay in their own home neighborhood, because they just are more secure. I had some who attended school to me, and they were very brilliant children. I enjoyed them.
Okay, but you do support the judge's ruling.
Yes, I do.
Clara?
Well, at least she stated that she had one little black kid that was what? What did you say about this one you had?
Well, he was very insecure at first, but I made him secure.
Well, see, this is a problem that we are having with whites that have not been exposed to blacks. They are very insecure at first. And I don't think that's a racial thing.
Well, I had a lot of, now, a lot of parents need to be more receptive. At another school that I went to, I had this little child, and just that the parents' attitude needs to be, well, I don't want to, I don't want to get in a confrontation with the parents, but they need to be more receptive to what is trying to be done for the education of their children.
Well, since you're a teacher, you understand that you cannot evaluate a child on the way he looks. For example, George Washington Carver slept out in a barn and gave to us some of the greatest scientific inventions of all time. So when we look at students, we have to look beyond the shallow things as clothes and as the way they come to us insecure. And that's why we are teachers. We have a responsibility to give those kids something that they cannot get at any other place. Otherwise, school would have no value.
We appreciate your call, ma'am, and thank you very much. Appreciate your call. I'm going to take another one now. Thank you. 840-1000. Hi, KTOK. Quick.
Hello.
Yes.
I have about 3 points I would like to discuss with Mrs. Luper and with you.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a fourth-generation Oklahoman, so I've been around throughout all of this. I'm proud of my state in that we have integrated with less growing pains than almost any place in the country. When busing first became a possibility, I opposed it. I still oppose it, and I oppose it on the same basis that I did at that time. I have never opposed integration, not as a child, nor as an adult. I feel that integration is the only way in which people can come to terms with themselves and with God. If you persecute or if not persecute, if you ignore a segment of society, you're ignoring God. And I'm opposed to it on a very deep personal level. However, before integration, or before busing, well, not integration, but before integration, Douglas used to have certificates all the way down the main hall from the University of Oklahoma for the quality of students that they were sending to them. So did Capitol Hill High School. After busing, they never got another one because the quality of education was so greatly diminished. The children were in an uproar, the teachers were in an uproar, the parents were in an uproar. Now that uproar has ceased to exist a number of years ago. But the quality of education has not improved because the impetus was on busing, not on funding for programs in the schools. They had to cut back, and cut back. There hasn't been a new school or a major renovation since busing. The teachers' salaries have not increased during this period of time. The quality of education...
you don't have the right information.
Yes, I do.
You don't. I'm a teacher of
Let me tell you where I got my information, Mrs. Luper.
Well,
I was on the Parents Advisory Committee for the Oklahoma City Public Schools for 2 years.
Are you saying that the teacher salaries have not increased since busing?
I'm sorry, what did you say?
Are you saying that the teacher salaries have not increased since busing?
Only cost of living increases. There have not been any major pay increases to teachers.
And are you saying that the students here aren't getting certificates and awards and the emphasis has been on busing?
No, I said that there is no longer certificates being issued to the Oklahoma City schools
You don't
the
have
quantity that there was prior to busing for the quality of students being graduated from the school.
I don't know about the certificates, but I think that I would be inclined, of course I don't have the documentation, caller, but I would be inclined to blame a lot of the school district's financial woes not so much on busing, but on white flight, among other things.
Well, I think that there's some merit to that. However, that, as you see, the people that I know of who did not flee integration. They fled busing.
Oh, that's why they left their churches over here?
Well, I have no idea about their churches. You see, my church and probably the major Christian denomination in the United States and possibly in the world.
All right, caller, hold on.
I'm sorry.
Wait a minute, ladies, back off here. I'm getting behind caller. One point, you've confused me, ma'am.
All right.
In that, you've confused me in that you started out saying that you said something about integration. Those who accept integration are standing with the Lord.
That's right.
And you had that deep commitment.
That's exactly right.
And now you're arguing in favor of resegregating the elementary schools.
Oh, no. Now, I never said resegregating. I said eliminating busing. I am in favor of a neighborhood school concept. Let me go forward just a little.
Okay, wait a minute. No, wait a second. We can't talk about the neighborhood school concept without deciding whether or not that concept will or will not resegregate the schools.
That is exactly right.
Let
me give you some facts and figures.
Hold on just a second. I think it will. The NAACP, as a matter of fact, argued that it will. You apparently feel as though it won't.
Would you like to hear the facts?
Yeah. I would like to hear some information.
This is information.
Okay.
As a member of the Parents Advisory Committee for the Oklahoma City Public Schools 3 years ago, when they first came up with the idea, in fact it was 4 years ago, I beg your pardon, when they first came up with the idea of trying to re-implement a neighborhood school concept without eliminating integration, they called parents from every school in the district. They got black parents from every school, and they got white parents from every school, and it was very difficult to get both from every school, but they did. They solicited everyone's involvement.
Yeah.
I happen to be one of those people. They gave us computerized lists and figures and maps and diagrams and everything of the entire makeup of the city school system by student. It was not only racial, but socioeconomic and cultural. And I am here to tell you that this city is basically integrated. There are tiny pockets.
In the schools, you mean?
In the schools, in the neighborhoods. I'm not talking about, they gave it both to us with what was in the schools because of busing and what would be in the schools without busing.
Well, okay.
Okay?
All right. Clara, do you accept that?
Oh, no, I don't accept what she's saying. She doesn't, and she doesn't have all the information. I don't know whether she realizes that
I still have it. I have it in a box in my attic, and Mrs. Luper, if you'd like to come to my house, I will be glad to show it to you.
Well, if you would like to come to my house, I would like to show you some different
come to your
figures.
house and show it to you.
I can show you some different figures, because if we had fair housing and all of that, we're going to take it out to the
Are
city.
you telling me that the school system took census figures and distorted them?
No, I'm
Is
not
that what
saying
you're
that.
saying?
I am saying that if you think you can have integration without busing, you're dreaming.
Well, we were beginning to have integration before busing. We had
You didn't have it before the NAACP went to court with it.
No.
That's why you should be a member of the NAACP.
Well, I believe in integration. There's no problem with integration, but I have been a school bus driver.
Jump ball.
And I know what goes on there.
All right, jump ball. That's it. Caller, thank you for your input. I appreciate it. You have a good night. Okay? Good. Well, goodbye. All right, Clara, stand by. Take a deep breath. I've got to do some weather. We'll take a next call momentarily, okay? 840-1000 is our talk line number. Hi, caller.
Hi.
You're next.
I think...
Not now. Let me do some weather first. You'll be first when I come back off this commercial break. You stand by.
The people at TLC know how to make your landscaping and patios beautiful. One way is with decorative pots and planters. TLC features great buys on their regular clay pottery, but TLC also features unique white clay pottery and TLC's beautiful decorative Italian Itera, the smoother, finer quality imported clay patio pot from Italy, direct to TLC just for you. Beautify your patio and landscaping with decorative pots and planters from TLC, 105 West Memorial Road. Open weekdays 8 to 8, Saturday 8 to 6, and Sunday 1 to 5.
I want to talk about Stanley Steamer. Now is the perfect time to have Stanley Steamer clean your carpets. Stanley Steamer, the carpet cleaner, delivers quality, service, and value. Stanley Steamer is an industry leader in these areas. And when they're finished cleaning your carpets, you can take a clean white cloth, wipe it across the carpet, and that cloth will come up clean. And that's their guarantee for you. Right now, you can take advantage of the Stanley Steamer Spring Cleaning Sale. Stanley Steamer will clean any 2 rooms for only $39.95. Mention KTOK, and you'll get a hallway cleaned absolutely free. Combined living areas considered as 2 rooms and residents only, please. All of the quality and service of Stanley Steamer and a hallway cleaned free. Now, due to this extraordinary value, only 1 special per household, please. Call between now and Monday at 6 p.m. and ask for the Stanley Steamer Spring Cleaning Special. 755-4060, 755-4060. Stanley Steamer. Anything less can revert back to the neighborhood school concept for grades K through 4. The judge said in his opinion that the schools would not be resegregated if that happened. Others disagree. The NAACP filed suit. Obviously, they disagree. Clara, you said they will appeal, right?
That's what our attorney said this evening.
Hi, you're on KTOK.
Hi.
Yes.
Well, I think what has happened tonight is that we've strayed, or the discussion has strayed from the central issue, in my opinion. What's at issue here is the phrase, and the American people have a tendency to develop these phrases that you can't define, like phrases like separate but equal. And we have never had separate but equal. We have never had it. And if anybody can pinpoint to me where we've had separate but equal in the education system or in any other way that we've had, in America especially, we've never had separate but equal anything. And when you come down to a child's education, how do you measure that? I mean, who's going to sit back and measure and say, well, the systems are equal? In other words, the bottom line is when a child gets out of the 4th grade in a predominantly black school, what's his test scores are. And when he gets out of the 4th grade, what's his test scores going to be like when he's in the 10th grade? Because we know that the foundation of any child's education, the average child, is the first 4, first 5, first 6 years. I'm not a school teacher, so I wouldn't know. But what we're doing is we're playing around and we're risking these kids' this whole future on this phenomenon, a fictitious phenomenon that nobody has defined.
I think that was brought out in this 2-day hearing. The members of the Board of Education had no figures to show that the finger plan was not working. There were no testing to see what had happened to the students that had been bused. But only the committee got together and wrote this plan. Now in NAACP, we certainly believed it in 1909, we believed it when the Supreme Court told us in 1954 that there was no such thing as separate but equal. And even though Judge Bohannon ruled today, and the school board stated that these schools will be equal, and one thing came up from one of the board members that frightened me. They say they're going to put the best teachers and the most experienced teachers on the east side in Oklahoma City. Now, what will that do to the students on the west side? I think that I think that they are listening to words, and we are waiting to see. It will be interesting as they move teachers. Who determines who's a better teacher? That's going to be quite interesting.
Who said that?
I don't know, one of the witnesses. I have to wait until we get our appeals. They were going to put the best teachers over on the east side.
Yeah, I wonder if that's raising any eyebrows on the west side. Oh.
It certainly should. The best teachers should be all over Oklahoma City.
East side, west side. Thank you, caller. Bye. KTOK, howdy.
Hello.
Yes.
Well, Clara, how you doing? I'm fine tonight.
Sarah, is this you? Sarah?
Yes, darling.
Give me a kiss. Thank you. Okay.
All right, then, dear, you relax. And you too, Clara. We have 2 Claras on the line.
No, this is Sarah. Sarah, Clara, Clara, Sarah.
Hi, Sarah.
This is the Sarah Clara hour.
All right, Clara, relax. You too, Bob.
Okay.
Judge Bohannon is only a federal judge. The Supreme Court judge is the one that makes the final decision. As you know, at that time, when all this was going on, we had a different president. And what the president and the Supreme Court decided, the federal judges had to obey. So if you you don't have any help from that direction, you won't get any other way. As far as the children are concerned, each generation will have to fight for their own way and place in life, whether the parents agree or not. And the parents that are prejudiced against the black children is going to always find themselves in more trouble than they're asking for, because the kids nowadays have their own way of thinking and doing. Their mind is made up to what they want to do and not what the parents want them to do. Read your Bible, parents. Stop sticking your head in the sand. Stop being what you call a hypocrite. You religious hypocrites. Stop being that kind of a person. Because that's all you're doing is driving your children away from you. They're not stupid. They're not blind. All you're doing is making dope addicts, winos, murderers, rapists, and everything else out of them. Can't you see what you've been doing to your children all these years because of your prejudice? Because of the way the Lord strives, it's going to come down on you. And there's no way the Supreme Court or any other common judge, federal judge, or anybody else is going to take over God's way. And when he says, I will send my destruction upon you, there will be nothing you can do about it. So parents out there, stop being stupid. Start being smart. Start reading your Bible. Start praying. Because if your soul is lost, what's good for all this gain? Good night, Bob.
Good night, Sarah. That was Sarah, Clara.
Oh.
She's one of our regulars. She's a nice lady.
Oh, well, great.
Every time she calls me, I get a little sugar.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, that's nice. Let's see here. Hi, KTOK.
I want a little history lesson from Clara.
Okay.
Clara,
Yes?
can you tell me, now I have a lot of Negro friends. When did, what year did they change the Negro race into the black race?
What year? It was no certain year. We're like everybody else. We change with times. This rose by any other name is just a sleep. Haven't you been told, honey?
No, but I have some friends, some Negro friends, that would get mad if you called them black.
Well, you asked me a historical question. Let me...
No, I
You
just
asked me
wanted
a question.
Well, when did this start?
Okay, we went into what was known as blackness with a black woman by the name of Phyllis Wheatley, who lived during the days of George Washington, who wrote, "Behold me, I am black as yonder's midnight." That was Black Pride. We saw it all through slavery, and in 1960s, it became the black movement.
1960.
In the 1960s.
All right, I'm writing this down.
You're, I love you. Okay.
No, really, I am. I'm not.
Well, I'm glad that you want to know. But when we were...
Why do you want to know, caller?
Huh?
Why do you want to know?
Well, I have some very good. Now, I won't call them blacks. I'll just be honest with you. Not that I'm prejudiced. Just like I said, I have some very good friends that are Negroes. And they get mad. And I had one, he's a real prominent man he's dead now. Lived out in northeast part of town. He was a doctor, Clara Luper. Clara might know him. Or probably knew of him. I'm sure of that.
Mm-hmm.
And I won't say his name, but he had two grandsons, and one of them's wife was a concert pianist.
Okay, but what difference, what I'm getting at is...
So, what I wanted to know was when, see, a Negro used to always be a Negro.
Well, in the South, they used to call them Negras.
No, now, whoa, wait a minute, I'm from the South.
Well, that was the term they used.
Well,
Yeah.
Let me give him some advice.
Yeah.
Let me tell you what I do, and I have so many white friends. You would be surprised at my white friends. But what I call my white friends just by their names.
Well, yes, but we have conversations every once in a while, and they're well-educated people, but they couldn't even remember when these people started calling them blacks.
Well, now we know that,
1960.
in the 1960s, the black movement became prevalent.
Yes.
But I told you that Phyllis Wheatley, take my word, don't take my word for it, go check out a book. She wrote a poem on her blackness. Langston Hughes in the 50s wrote about blackness. So it's been something, but it became widely publicized in the 60s.
Well, you know, this fella I was very, very prominent man.
Well, you get you some more black friends that's not dead.
But anyhow, oh, forgot what I was going to tell you.
I'm sorry.
He's said now. But irregardless of that, I just wanted to know when this became a popular thing.
Now you know. Now let me move along, and I appreciate your call, sir. Thank you very much. Clara, I'm going to take a break, and I've got one of my best friends is black. He's sitting right across the glass from me here, and we're gonna talk for a few minutes during this commercial break, and then we'll take another call, okay?
I'm glad you got one black
From
friend.
Photo.
Wouldn't it be great to see your favorite home movies on TV?
Neighborhood school concept for grades K through 4, the elementary school set, and Clara Luper is within reach at 840-1000 if you care to give her a call and tell her how you feel about that sort of thing. Hi, KTOK, how are you?
Hello, I just want to say hi to Clara. She's a celebrity to our family, and we're not black, but even though I do have a adopted child that's about a half or a fourth or something like that, Indian and black and Irish, and kinds of things. But I have a question too. What are the alternatives? Surely in this decision, some alternatives are being considered, and I'm interested in the possibility that even though Clara may be, she's supporting it, not supporting the decision by the judge, and on both sides, I think we ought to be considering alternatives, because we're not necessarily going to get our way in the actual way the law goes, no matter which side of the fence you're on. Supreme Court might overturn Bohannon's decision, or something like that, as a previous caller indicated, and or vice versa. Maybe it'll stick and we will not have busing. I don't like busing. I have my own reasons, but it has nothing to do with the question I have in mind is surely there are alternatives that on both sides. Like one alternative is to do nothing, and to enact laws which cause great economic duress on the part of all, especially minorities or just poor whites, and this will cause increased segregation. Maybe we'll forget about race and we'll just divide the whole country into poor and rich. That's one alternative. We don't know what's going to happen, but what are the alternatives to ensure that we don't go back to segregation?
Well, the first thing that we could do is the whites could move to the northeast side of Oklahoma City. We need to have a large number of whites, and maybe that won't happen immediately because we're talking about neighborhood integrated schools. If the whites move back to the east side and the blacks continue to move on the west side, the whites move from southeast Oklahoma to northeast Oklahoma, we can have integrated neighborhood schools. And the Board of Education has a catch in the whole thing. You can transfer from a majority to a minority school. If you are in the minority, you can transfer, and they will furnish free transportation. So if we have 1,000 students that want to transfer to integrated schools, the school board with the taxpayers' money will pay for that.
Is this a new thing?
No, that was amended on to the proposed change.
So that's one of the things they're doing along with this neighborhood school concept.
Yes, and so far, we have about 200 blacks that have signed up to transfer, but we've had no whites that decide that they want to transfer to the east side. So maybe after this extension, we might have hundreds of whites that will transfer to the east side.
You think so, huh?
Do I think so?
Yeah.
This is kind of like
Well, I know you don't want me to answer that.
Oh, okay.
Is this kind of like a modified voucher system? I've heard a little bit about a voucher system in the news lately.
I don't know what kind of system I would call it.
Yeah. Well,
I would call it, they have given the people that fought integration, the people that fought busing, exactly what they want. And it's still amazing to me how a few years ago it was against the Constitution of the United States to segregate kids by race. But today, Judge Bohannon ruled that it was all right from K through 4.
Of course, he's going to disagree with that.
Oh, I disagree with that because when I look at a city and a country and a nation, I look at it just like it was part of my body. You're going to tell me it's all right for part of my body to be infected with a situation where I can can grow up to be prejudiced, where I can grow up hating whites from what I've seen and read and heard. No, I want to grow up, and the same thing is true in the white community. Because see, people got to remember, the kids that grew up in an all-white society are having a time adjusting to the real world in terms of the work world and in terms of the real world.
It's going to get worse, too. Probably. I mean, the world's changing.
Well, our prayer is that we cannot afford for it to get worse in this country.
Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Well, we appreciate you, Clara.
Well, thank you.
Keep up the good work.
Okay.
840-1000, KTOK, you're on the air with Clara Luper.
Yes, good evening, Mrs. Luper. My comment is basically based on the comments that I have heard from other people calling in. I would like to suggest to you, Mr. Durgan, that there is a difference between not wanting your child on the bus, your little child on the bus, and not wanting your child in an integrated school. There's a very big difference. And I suspect that a lot of these people who say they don't want a little bitty child on a bus, that's dishonest, because the people who moved out of the Oklahoma City school systems into Edmond, Putnam City, Moore, Norman, and the like, their children are still on buses. And so I think you have to be very careful when a person says to you that they don't want their child on a bus. I think the real reason is they don't want the child on the bus for a particular purpose. And I think that busing never really gets to be offensive until integration is introduced. And my example is that the very first case that made schools integrate, the Brown case, involved black children walking past white schools many, many miles, little bitty kids, to go to a black school. And here in Oklahoma City, you had the case because Oklahoma City would not allow black children to go to Northeast High School. That's what started all of this. And so when people think that this judge just kind of up and magically did this, he didn't up and magically do that. And I think the real fear of the parents who are against the judge's decision is that when you do not have integration, you have a maldistribution of resources. The parents don't think just because a white child is sitting next to them instantly their child is going to learn more. They have a sneaking suspicion based on hard, cruel facts of the past that where the white children go, so go the resources. And that is the real fear that people have in being against it. And the other thing I would like to say is I think the reason why you have a lot of black parents for the judge's decision is for reasons that people don't understand. You have a new generation of people now with little bitty children in school who either did not live here or did not live in places back when, before busing, before integration. And there are a lot of, there's missed with those people the historical perspective of the reason why you had the decision.
Clara's not so sure there are many black parents that agree with the plan.
There probably are some, but you have to ask them why. And you have to ask them how much they really know about why we're at the point where we are now with the busing. And I think the only thing that disturbs me when I hear the argument about I don't want my little bitty kid on a bus set by a white person, they did not have that compassion when little bitty black children were walking miles past white schools that were neighborhood schools, by the way. There were schools that were close to their neighborhood. So the neighborhood concept is good, for some reasons, and it can be a camouflage for others. I suspect the only reason why you have Putnam City and Edmond.
Well, you raised a good point though earlier, caller, when you said something to the effect that you've got a suspicion that a lot of people who say they don't want their kids riding a bus, they use that as an excuse. What they're really saying is they don't want their white child to go to a school where there is a lot of blacks. My question is simply this, Clara. I'm wondering how, if and when we do return to the neighborhood school concept here in Oklahoma City, that the neighborhood is defined as 2.5 miles. Is it not? Or 1.5 miles?
Oh, they had all kinds of...
Okay, but my point is this, that if and when we return to the neighborhood school concept, there's going to be kids, both black and white, I'm assuming, who are still going to be bused to their, quote, neighborhood school, unquote. Am I right or wrong?
You're right.
So I'm wondering how many white students are still going to be bused after they get reassigned to their neighborhood school.
Oh, I don't know, but I'm sure one thing that was brought out in court today, one of the fears that we had about the program, that in some areas where you have higher income groups located, that even with the PTAs and the school involvement, you would have better equipment. But the president of the board says that if they raise some money in one school, it will be divided equally.
That has Mr. Kurt, Mr. Durgan, there's an Eisenhower school where the parents have put on bake sales and other things, and they've got more computers in that one school probably than any other school in the state of Oklahoma.
And they haven't divided that with the other schools all the Northeast?
It's never been required. It's never been required. And I must say that I don't know factually because I've not lived here that long, but I suspect that Quail Elementary School and Stonegate Elementary School were built after the integration effort because they just don't look like they're that old. But I thank you for the opportunity to be able to talk to Mrs. Luper. Thank you, Mr. Durgan.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Clara, we're out of time.
But Bob, let me tell you, I'll see you at the Soul Bazaar, April 26th and 27th at the Myriad. And be sure and tell all my friends that I'm facing the future with confidence, and I know that dark today will make tomorrow's sunshine bright. Clara Luper saying thank you.
Goodbye, dear.
Bye.
This is KTOK, Oklahoma.
Mass Trans offers many different types of services. One is a van pool.